What's up everybody, Matt Moran here for another car review. This is of course the 2018 Dodge Challenger SRT Demon. Huge thanks to Vince of the Tunnel Chasers YouTube and Instagram account for providing me with this very sweet Demon to review for you guys today. So about the Dodge Demon, well, I mean, just look at it. It's just even more aggressive looking than the wide body Hellcat that I reviewed last year, which was already very mean looking. You know, some of the exclusive Demon things you get here are this air grabber hood scoop, which is actually the largest factory production hood scoop available on a car. It's just massive and looks awesome. You of course have the more aggressive looking front splitter there in the front. Coming down to the sides, again, the wide body look, which I really love here on the Challengers. You have the Demon specific wheels with 315 wide tires all around here on the Demons, and of course there is also the Demon crate that you can get with skinny front wheels for those that go drag racing. And then of course you have the very cool Demon badge here on the side. Going out to the back there, it's pretty typical Challenger, you know, SRT with the same kind of spoiler there in the back, same kind of taillights, everything else. You know, it looks pretty subdued, honestly, and if you don't know what to look for, this could drive right by and you'd think it's just any other, you know, Challenger or wide body. It's especially here in this gray color. It really flies under the radar, but it also just really makes it look super mean and just an understated aggression, which is just really cool. As for the interior of the Dodge Demon, well, it's again very similar to what you see in other Challengers with a few unique things here. First off, sitting down in these seats, well, very nice seats you still get here in the Demon with the leather on the sides and the micro suede here in the middle, perforated, and they're still very comfortable seats. Now the Demon's kind of unique in the fact that it's basically comes totally stripped out, then you have to add each thing in for a dollar each. So for example, the passenger seat is $1, the back seat is $1, the carpeting is something you have to add in, you know, the radio, all these types of things you have to add back in, the upgraded stereo. Otherwise, if you don't get the upgraded stereo, then your standard stereo is a 2-speaker system. And funny thing, so like this, the owner of this one did order just about everything to make it as luxurious as possible, but it still didn't come with any carpeting in the trunk, for example, which is kind of funny. But anyway, so other things here about the Demon. The steering wheel is really great. You have this, again, Alcantara wrapped wheel here that feels really great. It has a nice 9.3 grip, nice little 10.2 notches. Again, basically the same as what you see in the Hellcat and things like that. Has the nice little metal paddle shifters here behind the wheel, and just a few buttons on it, and just a great wheel here. Next to the gauges here in the Demon, which are really cool. Again, very similar to all the other Challengers. The unique thing here for the Demon is the white background you see for you know, the gauges. Otherwise though, you know, it's the same basic gauges you get in any other Challenger, which are very cool, very retro inspired gauges, but they still have a really great large digital portion there in the middle, which like all the other FCA vehicles gives you a ton of vehicle information, especially when you're in an SRT product. You know, boost pressure, you know, every kind of vehicle dynamic you want to measure. It'll also be able to measure everything with quarter-mile timers and, you know, 0 to 60 timers, all that type of stuff built into that right in the middle there. And then there's even more over on the infotainment display. It also will display all the other basics, you know, audio, things like that. And so overall, you know, really great set of gauges. But coming over to the center of the dashboard here, like I mentioned, this infotainment system, it's the same Uconnect touchscreen infotainment you see in any other Challenger. It works really great. You know, it has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, which is always great to see. And, you know, has just, you know, all your basics, which is nicely customizable. Like the owner of this one's kind of customized the bottom parts to have different shortcuts than what you typically see in a factory setup car. And so, you know, it's all very easy to use, and, you know, it has navigation built in with maps that are, you know, pretty good. And overall, it's just a nice, easy touchscreen head unit, very easy to operate and really well done there. You also, though, get the performance pages here in the SRT products, which gives you a live dyno graph, and, you know, all the, again, performance metrics you get over in the center are also displayed there with all your timers and, you know, everything that's recorded there. You can go through, and it's a little slow to boot up, I will say that, but otherwise, it's just really cool they included it all, and so really nice to have that. Coming down, you have just a few buttons here. You have, you know, your volume and tune knobs, which are always great to have, an SRT button, a launch button here, as well as, you know, a couple other buttons, and then your basic climate controls, which the displays, you know, mirrors what you're actually selecting as far as, you know, temperature and things. And so just nice and simple and straightforward. Store space in the Demon is like any other Challenger. You know, in the doors here, you have 2 pockets, one in the back, one in the front, which is basically just a bottle holder, but nice to have that. Coming over to the center here, you have this little key holder right by the shifter, and then you have 2 cup holders. And then coming back, you have the center armrest, which is nice and softly padded, and you open that up, and it's a really deep cubby that has 2 USB jacks, an auxiliary jack, and a power outlet in there, and so good to have all that. And then as far as other storage spaces, you have this sunglasses holder up here on the roof too. Backseat space in the Demon, well, if you option the backseat in, that is, then it's, you know, just like any other Challenger backseat, which means it's actually the roomiest of the pony cars. And, you know, I'm 5'9", and I'm able to sit back there relatively comfortably. You know, it's a little tight, but it's possible, whereas in the Mustang and the Camaros, you're really squeezing yourself in there. So this is definitely a little more livable. You know, if you want to put kids and stuff back there on a regular basis, it's very easy to get in and out of the back seat. And so overall, a really good back seat. But again, it is optional in the Demon. You can get it completely without a back seat if you want. Trunk space in the Demon, like any other Challenger, is a very wide and deep trunk space. You can fit tons of stuff in there, and this one looks even bigger since it doesn't have any of the carpeting, like I mentioned. So it's just, you know, plenty of space in there. You'll obviously see also your subwoofers for the Harman Kardon audio system that this one has, which is an option again. Yeah, lots of space, and again, probably the roomiest out of all the muscle cars. All right, so start up and go for a drive. The Demon here has the Demon exclusive key, which is the red key, which is the faster one here, for the full 808 horsepower, 840 if you use the race gas. By the way, this one is just on 93, so it'll be 808 horsepower, but still should be plenty. Anyway, of course, the keyless entry and push button starts. You see the key in your pocket, hit the engine start button, burst to life. All right, so setting off in the 2018 Dodge Demon. Well, the first thing that I notice about is how loud it is. It's way louder than a regular Hellcat. So, I mean, this is stock, but it's just, I think, you know, the lack of sound deadening there in the back, you know, with no carpeting in the trunk. And they did remove a lot of sound deadening from the interior here still, even though I do have carpeting and stuff. I think they lost about 200 pounds with getting rid of sound deadening. And if you also got rid of all the seats and things like that, that's how you come up with that 200. But I mean, these are still pretty heavy, and even with that 200-pound loss, they're still 4,285 pounds. So this one, with a lot of that heavier stuff added back in, makes it, you know, probably closer to like 4,400 pounds or so. But again, this is a Dodge Challenger we're talking about. It's all about the muscle car experience. Other things related to the Challenger here, visibility is very good. You know, you have a large windshield. It's pretty easy to see out of. View out of the sides is great with large windows. And view out of the back is really good too. Other things to note about the Demon though, just cruising on a back road here at a slower speed first off here is you get a nice supercharger line. So it's a larger supercharger than you get on a regular, you know, like a Hellcat. You know, those have a 2.4 liter supercharger. These are 2.7 liters, so it's a little bit larger. Seems a little louder too, but pretty similar to the kind of supercharger sound you get with a Hellcat. Other things to note here, you know, it's just really still nicely dialed in with really sharp throttle response, nice heavy steering, which can be customized to be, you know, lighter or heavier depending on what you like, but feels really good here in drag mode, which is what the owner has his in usually. And other things here, this transmission's also in drag mode, and so that makes it really responsive. But it still also holds gears nicely. This is the ZF 8-speed, which does have a heavy-duty torque converter, though, for the Demon application here, to obviously help with your launching and burnouts and all that type of stuff. And so, yeah, it's pretty responsive, but I'm going to stay out of it until we get to a straight road, because that's the only way you can truly appreciate this car, I think. And it's not like anyone buys a Demon to go around corners, but I'm going to take it around a few corners here just to see how it handles. We have the suspension in sport mode here right now, which should make it a little bit flatter than the drag or normal street modes are. And we'll see how it actually takes corners. But I mean, it does have 315 wide tires all around, so it should handle just as good as the wide body Hellcats. But let's see here. So it's definitely, you feel that way. It feels heavy for sure. A little heavier even than the Hellcat, I think. Yeah, it definitely is not tuned to go around corners, so that's okay. But it certainly, you know, isn't quite as eager as some of the other muscle cars to dive into corners. But again, you're not buying a Demon to go around corners. I do think the Hellcat wide body does actually handle really well with its 305s, I think, all around. And so that is definitely, you know, a very good handling muscle car still, you know, especially for a Challenger in its weight. But the Demon seems just a little more hesitant in its setup, but we'll go around a few more corners here and try and get a better feel. Brakes do feel excellent, though, by the way. So, you know, responsive right at the top of the pedal. You start getting some really nice bite out of the brake pedal. Then listen to that exhaust. And the supercharger sign, just the sounds are just wonderful. And even at just coasting along here at 45 miles an hour, it's still very fun just with all the sounds you get. And just also, you know, you get the air grabber hood scoop there kind of bulging out over the hood here a little bit more than you get in a regular Challenger. It just really makes for a muscular stance. But yeah, the handling, you definitely can't attack it super aggressively, but it'll go through it just fine. For some reason, it just seems a little more front heavy than I remember the wide body Hellcat feeling. That's the only real difference. But otherwise, you know, the more that I do, you know, push it around corner after corner, the more it does feel a lot like the wide body Hellcat. So I think that's, you know, pretty similar in feel to how this feels. But again, the Demon, its mission is not for corners; it's for straight roads. So I'm gonna turn on my exhaust GoPro here. And the moment you've all been waiting for. All right, and let's turn down onto the straight road and see how it does. Here we go. Holy crap! Tons of wheel spin, and that front nose just lifts up in the drag mode. Ooh. Oh man, this is crazy. And since it's the 8-speed automatic, it just does it all for you and just goes crazy until it finally gets traction. But man, that's a lot of wheel spin even for 315 wide tires. Oh man, made my stomach flip though. That's just crazy amounts of power. Man, this thing, it's so easy to go so fast. I wish I had like an abandoned airstrip. I just want to bury the gas, but I legally cannot. Oh. The struggles of owning a Demon. It must be a really rough life because you're just constantly tempted. I mean, it's called the Demon after all. You're just constantly tempted to do bad things with it, but you can't if you want your license, that is. So as I unscramble my brain, the specs for the Demon here, it has a 6.2 liter supercharged heavy V8 engine that does 808 horsepower here on pump gas, 717 pound-feet of torque. Now if you were to put race gas in it, then you would have 840 horsepower and 770 pound-feet of torque. And with that race gas on a drag strip, you can get 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds supposedly if you prep it right. I mean, it's got all the tricks up its sleeve for you know, drag racing. It's got a trans brake. It uses the air conditioning to cool the intake charge. It actually gets rid of the air conditioning for the cabin so that it can cool off the intake charge and cool off that engine there whenever you're drag racing again and have it in that mode. So it does all these things to give you the absolute fastest quarter mile time, which I believe is quoted at like 9.6 seconds, I believe. And it's very, very impressive. Again, I've never drag raced, but I am betting that if I were to take this thing on a drag strip and actually be able to experience that, my heart might actually stop. So yeah, that's gotta be a blast. But even here on the streets, just getting a little sample of that, it's really exciting, and it's just got to be even better whenever you can actually take this thing onto a drag strip or you know, some other closed course where you can just fly in this thing. It's got to just be an absolute rush. I'm going to try another acceleration now, but I'm going to kind of roll into it from a little bit of a higher speed here and see how it does. Here we go. No, still spins the wheels. Man, this thing is wild. Oh, it just makes me laugh. It's just great. Oh man, I will say though, you know, it still loves to spin the wheels. I don't know how these Challengers with these huge rear tires are still spinning them. I mean, it's a lot of power, but there's other cars that'll put that power to the ground, but the Challengers just can't do it unless you, again, have a perfectly prepped course and you have, you know, full-on drag radials. These Nittos, by the way, that this has are basically the closest thing you can get to a street-legal drag radial, so I mean, they grip really well. Again, considering how much power we're putting through them, but it still is just like all the other Challengers, just tons and tons of wheel spin, which I love. It might not technically be the fastest, you know, whenever you're out in the real world, you know, on the streets here, but but it's a ton of fun, and that goes a long way. Now, the big question I personally had was, is it going to actually feel 100 horsepower faster than the Hellcat? I don't know. You know, I think it's close, but you know, the Hellcats also feel very insane, but it definitely has more grunt than a Hellcat for sure. Yeah, because like I said, you do have a bigger supercharger too. It's not just like they turned up the boost on a Hellcat motor, you know, which I think is like 14.5 pounds of boost. These are running, I believe, but it's a 2.7 liter supercharger instead of 2.4. So you do definitely, you know, have a lot more grunt, I think, down low, whereas the Hellcat has tons of torque down low as well, but I think this actually feels like it has a little bit more, because I feel like it's a little bit more aggressive, especially from the lower speeds. The upper, once you get to the higher RPMs, it feels more similar to the Hellcat, I think, if that makes any sense, but the lower RPMs is where you really feel that additional power, I think. Another thing I really love, even just accelerating slowly here at the Challenger, is the abruptness of the shifts, especially because the transmission's in drag mode, and so the shifts are actually quite firm, a lot less smooth than a Hellcat. I mean, again, it's all in the modes here. I can put it into street mode and it'll be a lot smoother, but I really like it. It actually feels like you're cruising around like a drag car, like an actual drag prep car with the roughness of the shifts. And I actually like that. It adds a little more character than the already, you know, overabundance of character you get with any Challenger. But this, it makes it really feel like an old school muscle car with the way those shifts are nice and firm. And I love this thing. This is an absolute blast, but it doesn't come cheap. These start at $86,000, but then work their way up from there, and so they can get pretty expensive pretty quickly. But it's amazing when you come to a stop too, just how much it leans in the drag mode here. It really softens up that front end to help with the launches, and you can feel it. But the great thing about the Demon and all Challengers is it's still a very daily drivable car, and you know, you can go ahead and put everything into eco mode or whatever, and you know, dial back the horsepower, or even leave the horsepower at its full amount, but just put all the settings into street, and then it's totally comfortable and relaxed, and just a really smooth cruiser that's really great for, again, any kind of daily driving, you know, or road trip type stuff you want to do with it. You can. It's just, again, not the greatest backwards carver, but that's the sacrifice you make with the Demon, and it's totally worth it. You know, I mean, there's other vehicles if you want something really well-rounded, but you're not going to get 808 horsepower for this type of money. It's really, that's the value thing here with the Demon, is it is built to go fast in a straight line. But yeah, overall, how can you not love the Demon? I mean, if you're a car enthusiast, you gotta love this thing. It's just, you go full throttle in a straight line in one of these things and you don't at least smile, you do not have a pulse. It's just undeniable fun, and it's an absolute blast. I mean, you know, again, these are expensive, so you pay a lot of money to go really fast in a straight line. But, you know, I think it's the exclusivity. I mean, they're only making, you know, a few of these. They're not making a ton of Demons. And so, you know, it's one of those, if you can get one and you can afford it, I would totally go for it. If you want to go fast in a straight line, you want a drag racer, I think this is, you know, really the last of its kind. I mean, how much longer can they keep doing stuff like this? I mean, you can have stuff that'll continue to be fast in a straight line, I'm sure, in the future, but can it have a, you know, huge supercharger and, you know, these amazing sounds, these massive engines? It just, I don't know. I mean, I hope so, but I really feel like this is like, you know, just the high watermark for an era here. We're living in this another golden age of muscle here, you know, from all manufacturers. There's all kinds of fantastic stuff that's being offered here, and the Demon's the craziest of the bunch, I think. You know, it's just, it's so single-minded in its focus, with, you know, being straight line acceleration, but still being, you know, just so fun, but so easy to drive, and so accessible, and so livable. It's just, it's amazing, and it's just so cool that, again, that Dodge has the guts to offer something like this, to give it a warranty, and you know, actually sell it for public consumption. It's great. So anyway, huge thanks once again to Vince of the Tunnel Chasers YouTube channel and Instagram page for allowing me to review his Demon here. He's a very lucky guy to have this car. It's an absolute blast. And I'll include the link in the description below for his channel and his Instagram page. You can go follow along with him and his adventures here in the Demon. But yeah, it's what a car. I can't drive this thing too much much longer. I'm just, oh man, it's just so hard to not go fast. Anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Take care.